June 24th, 1941, near Raseiniai, Lithuania. The sun is already high, but the ground is still wet from morning mist, and diesel hangs in the air like a bitter fog. Feldwebel Karl Brenner of the German 6th Panzer Division leans out from behind the shattered stump of a birch tree, wipes grime off his field glasses, and says quietly to no one in particular, "What is that?" It is sitting alone in the center of the road, a Soviet heavy tank, massive, unmoving, and wrong. At first, the Germans think it's abandoned. Russian crews have been fleeing in panic for 2 days. Half-burned trucks, overturned artillery, Maxim guns lying in the grass. Blitzkrieg is doing exactly what Berlin promised it would do. But this is different. The thing in the road is not fleeing. The 1st German anti-tank team sets up a 3.77 Pak 36 on the edge of a ditch about 180 meters from the Soviet tank. The men move fast, practiced. Breech open, shell in, breech closed, sight adjusted. Feuer, the shot snaps like a whip. The armor-piercing round hits the Soviet tank's hull with a clean, bright clang, like hitting a church bell with a hammer. A white flash, a puff of dust. Nothing. No penetration, no fire. The Soviet tank does not even twitch. Brenner blinks. He has seen French Char B-1 tanks. He has seen thick armor before. But nothing that just shrugged off a direct hit like rain on a statue. The Pak crew fires again, and again, and again. 4 hits. 4 perfect hits, 4 ricochets. The German round simply skips off the angled armor and vanishes into the trees. "Unmöglich," one of the gunners whispers. "Impossible." The Soviet tank turns, slowly, deliberately, not running, hunting. What faces them is not a light BT series or a thin-skinned T-26. This is one of the Red Army's heavy tanks reports, will later mix the exact designation KV-1, KV-2 turret configuration field modifications. But on that road in that hour, nobody in the 6th Panzer Division is arguing about nomenclature. They only know one thing: it cannot be killed. The turret grinds with a deep mechanical growl, metal on metal, servo and sweat. And then there is a cough, a single massive cough as the Soviet main gun fires. The impact lifts earth like a shovel. The Pak 36 is simply gone, thrown sideways, its crew broken, and scattered men who were confident 60 seconds ago now howling and kicking in the grass, white faces streaked red. Artillery bring up the 105. The radio crackles. Orders start jumping between platoons, batteries recon elements. The advance has halted because of one vehicle. One. That was not in the briefing. The 6th Panzer is supposed to be pushing northeast fast to secure crossings and cut off Soviet retreat routes. Instead, an entire column sits on a country road in Lithuania, engines idling, waiting on a single stubborn shape of Soviet steel. The Germans try flanking it. Infantry probe low through the ditches. Machine gunners creep forward, keeping their heads down. They're looking for any weakness, an open hatch, a vision slit, an exposed crewman. Nothing. Whoever is inside that tank is calm, professional, and still alive. Inside the Soviet heavy, the air is metal oil and breath. The crew had orders the day before: hold the line. Do not allow German armor to pass, delay them as long as physically possible. No speeches, no heroics, just direct orders in the chaos of Barbarossa. You do not move. They do not pass. The tank obeys. The KV sits astride the supply road, like a gate slammed shut. The psychological damage lands even before the physical. Panzer crews in the column begin muttering to each other. Did you see how the shells bounced? How thick is that front plate? Is that the turret? What is that turret? Word spreads down the line faster than any radio transmission. You can kill a man with fear long before you hit him with metal. Another German anti-tank gun is hauled forward, this time a heavier 5 cm Pak 38. Better velocity, better penetration. They set up behind a hay cart, swing the barrel, and fire. The shot sparks against the KV's turret ring, blasts paint and dust chips armor, but does not go through. The German crew fire again, sweating, shouting corrections. The Soviet tank replies with one round. The hay cart erupts into orange fire. The Pak 38 crew dives, some not fast enough. Close-range rifle fire rattles and pings off the hull, pointless. A stick grenade lands on the deck and rolls off. MG-34 bursts stitch against the side of the turret and leave only scratches. For the first time in the campaign, men in the 6th Panzer Division feel an emotion that had been reserved up to now for the other side, uncertainty. Because here is the truth, and it is spreading through the German lines like cold water down the spine. Blitzkrieg only works if you keep moving. And right now, nothing moves. By mid-morning, the stalled battle group has to call in heavier guns not meant for tank killing at this range. 10.5 mm FH field howitzers are dragged forward by half-tracks and sweating gunners positioned dangerously close just to get a flat enough trajectory. The crews crank elevation down, down, down. This is not textbook employment. This is desperation. Ready fire. The howitzer round slams into the KV's side plate with a deep metallic thud, throwing up black smoke and dirt. For a few seconds, the road disappears in dust. Men cough, wave their hands, try to see. When the air clears, the Soviet tank is still there. Still sitting on the road. Still blocking the advance, and now the turret has turned toward the howitzer battery. The loader inside that giant Soviet machine wipes sweat from his brow with a sleeve blackened by oil. His ears are ringing. He cannot hear words, only shapes in his commander's mouth. The commander jabs a finger at the German guns. The loader nods, slams another shell forward, rams it home. The main gun fires. A German truck turns into shredded wood and sparks. Another shot. A half-track is knocked sideways into a drainage ditch, wheels spinning uselessly in the air. Men start shouting the truth out loud now, not in whispers, not under their breath, but openly. Our guns can't kill it. The KV's armor cast thick-sloped is doing more than stopping shells. It is rewriting the mood of an entire German unit. Because this is the moment where the Germans realize this is not France. This is not Poland. This is not a campaign of soft opponents who fold and run. This is something else. Something built for a different kind of war. And they are not ready. The standstill becomes a siege. By early afternoon, the logjam behind the KV stretches deep. Fuel trucks supply lorries, motorcycle scouts, medical staff cars, radio vans, repair crews, even cooks. All of it motionless, all of it vulnerable. One tank has frozen an artery of the German advance. The map says Raseiniai. The reality says you're not getting past here today. Oberleutnant Victor Hahn, commanding a forward element of panzers, does the math. Ammunition expenditure is spiking. Time on target schedules are ruined. Every minute lost here lets Soviet infantry and armor fall back, regroup, dig in east. The whole point of the 6th Panzer Division is speed. Cracking lines open, not sitting in a Lithuanian farm road under artillery fire from one stubborn red monster. He gets on the radio. Bring the 88. There it is. The phrase changes the tone instantly. The 8 cm. Flak gun, the Acht, the famous German 80K, is not technically an anti-tank gun. It is an anti-aircraft gun. Tall carriage, long barrel, high velocity. Designed to rip apart high-altitude bombers. But in North Africa and France, crews have learned something. If you point it horizontally instead of skyward, the 88 will punch through almost anything on Earth. Almost anything. They are about to find out if almost includes Soviet heavy armor. The crew tows the 88 into a farm field off the road between fence posts and furrows of potatoes. Sweat runs down faces and darkens gray tunics. The gun is big, exposed, unmistakable. Men crouch low around it. Everyone knows that if the Soviet tank spots that long barrel, that gun becomes the first target. Range: 200 meters, armor-piercing, loaded. The barrel settles. The KV is still in the road, turned slightly now, engine idling turret angled toward any threat. Its armor is scabbed with impact marks, gray scars, chipped paint, scorched metal. But the hull is intact. The tracks are intact. The crew is alive. The German 88 fires. The shot doesn't clang. It cracks. It hits the KV's frontal armor with a savage punch that throws sparks and spalls a dark crater into the plate. For the first time all day, the German gunners see visible structural damage. There is shouting, clapping relief, like air being sucked back into lungs. Again, Wieder second round. Third round. The KV shakes visibly now, with each hit armor blistering bolts, warping weld seams, groaning under the stress. Inside the Soviet tank, it's a different world. The commander's periscope view is smeared with soot. The loader's hands are bleeding. Fragments of steel, not penetrations, but splinters torn from the inside surface of the armor itself, whip the interior like shrapnel from their own tank. The driver can barely see. Vision slits are spidered with cracks and dust. The gunner tastes metal. But they are still in the fight. The gunner lines up on the 88's muzzle flash. He knows it's dangerous. He knows if they don't silence that thing, they die here. He fires. The recoil slams through the entire chassis like a hammer through bone. The shell lands close, too close. Dirt and burning splinters roar over the 88 crewmen ducking behind the gun shield that suddenly feels very, very thin. Adjust 2 mils right. Reload fire. Another 88 round slams into the KV's lower glasses near the running gear. Now something changes. The Soviet tank lurches. Not dead, not knocked out, but wounded. The left track links jump and twist. Drive sprockets grind. The KV groans and settles angled, immobilized. For the Germans lining the ditches, it feels like watching a bear finally slow down after charging through a pack of hunters. You don't breathe yet. You don't cheer yet. You just stare. The KV is no longer blocking the road in motion, but it's still blocking the road, in fact. It has not exploded. It has not burned. Smoke curls from vents, yes. The engine whines under strain, yes. But the gun is still alive. And that gun is now fully focused on the 88. The KV fires again. The shot tears into the soil just in front of the flak gun, exploding upward in a shockwave of dirt and shrapnel that rips through 2 crewmen, dropping them instantly. The rest of the gun crew goes flat. You can feel the moment terror and respect folding into each other. On paper, this is ridiculous. One immobilized tank holding up a German Panzer Division that just days earlier shattered Soviet frontier defenses across hundreds of kilometers. But here at Raseiniai on this road, it's not ridiculous. It's reality. And reality is expensive. Because while this duel plays out, German logistics are bleeding. Fuel convoys can't reach the forward spearheads. Ammo resupply is delayed. Medical evacuation is slow. Radio coordination fractures. A division is not a fist anymore. It's a line of nervous pieces. This is why an isolated heavy tank can matter more than a battalion of infantry. It doesn't just kill machines. It kills momentum. By late afternoon, German infantry begin low crawling toward the KV under the cover of shell bursts and smoke pots. They're carrying satchel charges now, magnetic mines, grenades taped together, the kind of work no one volunteers for, but someone always ends up doing. 60 meters, 40, 30. The KV's turret struggles to traverse fast enough to swat each crawling threat. The commander inside is shouting. loader working on muscle memory. The coaxial machine gun is hammering short, vicious bursts into the grass. 20 meters. One German sapper sprints. He slams himself against the KV's hull out of the turret's depression angle, heart beating so hard he thinks it will give him away. He pulls the pin on a bundled charge and shoves it down toward the engine deck vents. He kicks off and dives. The explosion is brutal dull inside the KV's body. Black smoke boils up. For a long moment, nothing happens. Then, through a warped hatch, someone inside the KV tries to get out. German rifles are already aimed. The first man out dies in the hatch. The second falls across him. The German machine gunner keeps firing until nobody moves. Silence rolls in slow. It's not triumph. It's exhaustion. All along the roadside, men lower their weapons and stare at what they just fought. Up close, the KV looks less like a tank and more like a bunker on tracks. The armor is cratered, ripped, gouged. You can trace the paths of dozens of hits. Some impacts are so close together, they look like hammer strikes on an anvil. And still, it took field howitzers and 88 infantry assault in hours. Hours. For one tank. Han walks up to the KV, runs his hand over one of the impact craters, and finally says the quiet part out loud. If they have hundreds of these, he mutters. This war is not what Berlin told us. The report that leaves Raseiniai that evening does not sound like victory. It sounds like warning. Fragments of message traffic move up the chain, unexpected heavy breakthrough resistant Soviet armored vehicles. Frontal armor proof against 37mm and 50mm. Even 105mm at close range shows limited effect. 8.8 cm required for neutralization. Infantry losses high. German doctrine, the clean fast. Brilliant doctrine the world has been watching with fear since Poland and France just met something that didn't care. No one in Berlin expected this so soon. Before June 22, 1941, German officers were told the Red Army was backward, clumsy, inflexible. Peasants with rifles and too many tanks, yes, but crude tanks. Badly led, poorly built. That was the line. And some of that was true, but not all. The KV series was not a rumor. It was not propaganda. It was not a parade-only showpiece. It was here in the mud in combat, doing exactly what it was designed to do, delay, absorb, and force the enemy to spend time and blood. That delay matters, because Blitzkrieg is not magic. It's logistics balanced on timing. You punch a whole drive panzers through encircle collapse. That only works if your armored spear can outrun the enemy's ability to react. The KV at Raseiniai bought the Soviets time to react. And time in war is oxygen. That night, as the 6th Panzer Division finally begins pushing past the smoking wreck on the road, Soviet command elements are already repositioning. Bridges are being prepared for demolition. Reserve armor is being shifted. Defensive lines are being redrawn with the knowledge that German 37mm guns are not gods, that German tank crews are not invincible, that German morale can be shaken. The myth of unstoppable German steel has a crack in it now, and that crack was carved by one crew in one tank that refused to move. Let's step closer. Inside that KV, in its final minutes, those men were not thinking about rewriting German doctrine. They were not thinking about becoming legends. They were not thinking about Raseiniai, ending up in after-action reports and training briefings and whispered conversations among Wehrmacht officers. They were doing math. We hold this road for one more hour, our division can fall back. We hold this road for 2 more hours, artillery can reposition. We hold this road until dark, and maybe the Germans lose their window. That is all. That's the brutal simplicity of delay tactics. You don't have to win the battle. You just have to slow the enemy long enough to change the war. For the Germans who were there, the lesson burns in deeper, more personal ways. A corporal in the Pak 36 crew sits on an ammo crate that night, staring at his hands. He keeps replaying the first shot, the perfect shot, center mass textbook. He did everything right. The round sparked and skipped like it hit a cast iron stove. Before Raseiniai, he trusted his weapon. After Raseiniai, he trusts nothing he hasn't personally seen destroy a KV. That psychological shift will ripple forward. German field units begin demanding more 88s for groundwork. Urgent requests for higher velocity armor-piercing ammunition spike. Intelligence officers start compiling every photograph, every measurement, every rumor about Soviet heavy armor. Technical teams swarm the wreck of the KV at first light, measuring armor thickness with calipers and chalk sketching angles, crawling underneath with flashlights and notebooks. They treat it like scientists around a fallen meteor. They know what they're looking at. It is not just a machine, it is the future. Because here is the secret that's starting to surface in June 1941, in conversations that will become design meetings in 1942. To kill a KV at range, you need more gun, more velocity, more punch. You need something like a panther. You need something like a tiger. The irony is sharp. The KV, which Stalin's factories pushed out in brutal numbers, will help force Germany to create the very monsters, tiger or panther, that the world will come to fear. But in June 1941, none of that exists yet. In June 1941, there is only a German division staring at a hole in its own doctrine. And one more thing lingers. Respect. Hard, reluctant soldier-to-soldier respect. Not for Stalin, not for Marxism, not for the Red Army as an institution. For the crew. For the men who stayed inside that furnace long after most men would have bailed out and run. When the Germans finally pull the Soviet dead from the KV's blackened interior, someone drapes a canvas over them. Not out of kindness, at least not officially. Out of practicality, out of cleanliness. But you don't cover an enemy like that, unless somewhere in you, you're thinking, if I had been in that tank, would I have stayed? That question will follow them east, deeper into the Soviet Union, into places with names that will stain maps for generations. Smolensk, Vyazma, Leningrad, Moscow. Because Raseiniai is not an ending. It is a warning shot, a promise. The Eastern Front will not be fast. It will be grinding. It will be industrial. It will be personal. And from this point on, no one in the German 6th Panzer Division will ever again say casually over cigarettes and confidence, they'll break in a day. Not after what they saw a single Soviet tank do in a Lithuanian farm road on June 24, 1941.